and welcome back to the Bird's Eye View podcast. We are here in the wee hours of the morning on Saturday, October 18th, shortly following the Toronto Blue Jays Game 5 loss to the Seattle Mariners in the ALCS. I'm your host, Zach Worden, joined as always by Jori Negin-Shecter. And before we get into it, if you're watching on YouTube, we'd love if you took a second to like and subscribe. And if you're on audio, we'd love if you left a follow and review. So Jori, Game 5, the Blue Jays, the script was kind of playing out similar to how things went in games 3 and 4, where they fall behind early and they kind of come back and they take the lead. And then this time it all falls apart in the eighth inning. And I mean, let's start there. Brendon Little comes in, gives up the game tying homer to Cal Raleigh, walks the next two guys, and then Sir Anthony Dominguez gives up the big blow, a grand slam to Geno Suarez.
You know, it's a damn shame that both of us have full-time jobs that keep us working until 1 o'clock, 1:30 in the morning. Because if we'd have hit the record button, in the immediate moments following basically the Geno Grand Slam, but following the final out of the ball game, I would have been ripping hot. And there's been enough time now that, the night's over. Gotta go. Gotta win game 6. Is what it is. Trey Savage on the bump. Blah, 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 blah. However, what, and I apologize, you're gonna have to get the bleep out here. And I'm just warning you in advance for when you come back to edit this. What the are you doing, John Schneider? What the actual, what are we doing here? Why is Brendon Little getting the 8th inning against Cal Raleigh and the rest of the heart of the Mariners order? And he comes in. That was the most predictable home run, maybe in the history of Blue Jays home runs. And then, of course, he walks the two other guys, which just here you go. Hey, Seattle, you want here? Let me put two guys on for free with my completely uncompetitive knuckle curve and my complete inability to spot my fastball. Which, by the way, that was the pitch that it wasn't the curve. It was the 93-mile-an-hour absolute dead fish fastball that Cal Raleigh sent all the way to Timbuktu. And then, of course, he gets Sir Anthony Dominguez, and he can't find the zone either. And Geno Suarez promptly deposits that pitch in the right field bleachers. And just like that, I mean, it's over, man. Just egregious on so many levels. And post-game, John Schneider, oh, I feel so much for Little. Oh, I've got trust in all my guys. Oh, you gotta have conviction in your decisions. Brother, who in their goddamn right mind with Jeff Hoffman able to go, with other lefties, you literally have 3 lefties, with Eric Lauer, if Mason Fluharty was down, with Eric Lauer available on the pen, if you're so desperate to switch sides, which this guy's a switch hitter, the other guy, Polanco, switch hitter, these guys are not going to have one side where they're going to be weaker than the other. Listen, this is an MVP candidate. You need to face this guy with your best stuff, and you make the decision. You make the absolute boneheaded, brain dead, mind-boggling decision to go to a guy with an ERA over 5 since about June or July, and has basically been unplayable since basically after the All-Star break, has easily been your second or third best lefty. And that's not even counting the rest of your deadline acquisitions. You were so ready to go to, Varland in the high leverage spots and you go Dominguez, and then you make this absolutely asinine decision to go to Brendon Little in that spot. What is going on? You feel for Brendon Little. He was not built for that situation. The lights were too bright. But he is not the guy that's supposed to be in that spot in any universe. And it might just cost the Jays their season.
It's crazy. It's really crazy. I think, you look at Raleigh, like during the regular season, it was a 186 WRC plus against lefties and a 150 against righties. Polanco, I mean, he was 150 against lefties and 127 against righties. So, I mean, those are two guys that hit lefties better. And, the explanation after the game of, he wants them to see some different guys. And I mean, I agree. Little had a good season, right? Like he was a very important part of this Blue Jays part or Blue Jays bullpen during the regular season. But as Sportsnet Stats points out, in his last 21 outings, he has a 6.08 ERA and a 1.88 WHIP. In a one-run ball game, it's not the guy that you probably want to go to against the heart of another team's order. And, we talked about this last night where Jeff Hoffman comes in the eighth inning of a 6-run game against the top of the order. And we're like, hey, we don't mind that because you're given your who you consider your best reliever the top of the order. And for him to not go back to Hoffman in that situation, I feel like Hoffman was the guy that made sense, or Dominguez, obviously. But I think yesterday you showed that you were willing to put your closer in against those specific guys for a specific reason. And today, with a 1-run lead, you decide to go against that. And if you decide to go against that because they saw Hoffman yesterday, then you need to do a better job of managing in a 6-run game.
Even at that, you've got all these arms. Anybody but Brendon Little. This guy is probably the last guy you want in that spot. I don't know if there's a single guy you'd less rather have going against the meat of not even, like you said, they brought in Jeff Hoffman in a 6-run ball game, and then they have the absolute gall, the absolute ass for brains to go out and put Brendon Little in a spot he's clearly not capable of, not likely to succeed in. Like, where is the justification? There is zero justification for the move. It's so backwards in thinking to target a guy because you want to see a different arm. It makes no sense. You target your high leverage guys with the high leverage innings. You don't give your arguably second or third lowest leverage arm, because I'm really not sure who's below him on the totem pole at this point. There is not a single universe, there is not a single machination I can think of that makes any sense whatsoever to have Brendon Little going in that spot. It's so incredibly ass backwards and so incredibly unfathomable that John Schneider would make that decision. And he's crushed it for the most part. He's really kind of made the right call after the right call and the right call. Part of that is just pulling the right lever at the right time and getting lucky. And part of that is pulling the right lever in a spot where it's clearly the right decision. So if everyone in the goddamn stadium can see that Brendon Little is ripe for the picking, what is John Schneider watching?
Yeah, obviously I personally wouldn't have gone to Brendon Little. I will say the rally homer, I mean, Little only gave up 2 home runs all season. So I think the walks were predictable. I'm not sure if the home run was predictable. And in a 1-run game, you can't be giving away free base runners, right? So I just think, no matter how you look at it, like it just seems like it was the wrong move. And obviously, it 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 costs you a game. You lose 6-2 in a game that you had a 2-1 lead heading into the eighth inning. Ernie Clement is, inches away from an extra home run in the top half of the inning, and just things like really all unraveled in dramatic fashion. I think, obviously the previous 6 innings or 7 innings that lead up to that, there's everything kind of seems to play out pretty well if you're the Blue Jays. Gosman was good. Varland looked electric. Your offense obviously wasn't hitting homers the same way that it was in the last 2 games, but for all things considered, you were in such a good position, especially with, Hoffman and Dominguez seemingly lined up for those final 2 innings.
It just doesn't make any sense to me. And it's hard to even fathom why you make that decision. And now, of course, you go back to Toronto, it's exciting. They can say all they want, exactly where we want them, backs against the wall. This is a team that gets up off the mat. You did not even need to be in this spot. Just a completely unforced error to just completely botch it. And it's as simple as that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you know what? I think if we go back a few days and, is this like
Yes, I already know what you're
coping?
gonna say. I already know what you're gonna say,
If
and don't
we,
even
yeah,
say it. It's gonna piss me off. Don't even say it. It's gonna piss me
no, it's
off.
it's true though. If I had told you 3 days ago that they're coming back to Toronto down 3-2, you're happy. Because
Yeah,
that's
I'm
how they're
happy,
looking
but
at it,
no,
right?
no, that's great. I think you're happy 3-2 if you don't completely make a dog's breakfast. There's that phrase again of that, of that what, eighth inning, ninth inning, whatever it was, right? It was the eighth inning. There's no reason to be down in this series. You are in the driver's seat. I mean, I don't have the Fangraphs win probability up. I'd imagine it was upwards of probably 80% probably going into that inning. And yeah, 80% is not 100%, but you are this close to being out of this thing. It boggles the mind. And, if this costs John Schneider his job, so be it. Like this is a almost, and you don't want to fire people, right? It's a big thing to fire someone. We're not on the radio, we're not any of that, but it's a big statement to fire someone over a decision. It's a fireable offense. That move is just indicative of this team and the way that decisions have been blown and opportunities have been blown, and whether it's been in past playoff games, or whether it's been opportunities in free agency, or whether it's been opportunities to swing big at a deadline and failing to do so, anything of that nature. It's over and over and over again that this group has failed to pull the right lever at the right time. It happens, and I get 29 teams end the season unhappy. I get that. But when you are on the precipice of heading home with the series lead, you have to be perfect. Your job as the manager is to make the decisions and make the right decisions and make them with conviction. He's got one of those down. He's got the conviction in making the absolute ass-headed decision of going to Brendon Little. Don't lose sight of that. This is a guy that since, like you said, since August, 6 ERA. How did he think this was going to end?
So I pulled it up on Savant. The win probability was 70% going into the bottom of the eighth.
I don't think that changes the calculus all that much.
No,
70%, 80%.
I mean, it's a game you have to win, right? Like, and obviously they're gonna have a chance to right the wrong, and it's gonna come back at home where they, didn't play very well. And you feel probably better about Trey Savage being better, having, another game under his belt, having experience against this lineup. Obviously now they have seen him though, which has kind of been, the big thing that everybody's kind of scared of with him is like the second look. But, we'll see how it all plays out. Obviously, you mentioned, I think, we talked a lot about this when they were down 2-0, and that they've made a living off of being like this comeback gritty group. And I obviously they are gonna have to do it again if they want to move on to the World Series, because there is no alternative this time, right? Like they could have lost game 3 or game 4 and stayed alive, but now they don't have any other options. So we'll see how it goes with those ones. I
It's
think
just it's just exhausting, it's like to and I literally let off the podcast. I was like, I've had a couple hours. I think even before we hit the record button, I was like, the dread has set in. I'm all amped up again, as you can see. And I'm gonna keep saying the same thing. It's just absolute dumbassery. And I don't know where the line is on our bleeps, but I'm sure we'll find a couple extra spots to toss them in. But
So, I mean, so home teams that win game 5 in a best of 7 to take a 3-2 lead have proceeded to win those series 23 of 38 times. So,
not a death sentence, but
it's not, because you are at least coming home, which I think is huge, right? And you'll have Savage, you'll have Bieber, you'll have, Gosman said he's going to be ready out of the pen for a game 7. But I mean, it's certainly not going to be easy. And I think that the Mariners on their side of things, like, obviously one swing changes a lot, but for them to, kind of like it felt like they were inching towards like their season being done. Like it felt like if the Jays, escape with that win, that they are, coming home, and it's a party at Rogers Center. And
now it's going to be all nerves. Any
yeah,
mistake is catastrophic. and it's going to become, tomorrow's, or maybe not technically tomorrow, whatever you want to say, Sunday's game seven. Even though it's game six, it's going to get managed like a game seven, but you get to manage both games like a game seven. I don't even know what you do. You know what's also going to be super interesting? It seems to me like the only guy they really trust at this point out of the bullpen is Louis Varland. I don't know if there's anyone else they really super trust. I guess Mason Flority's probably in that category too, and I get that you know, he's been worked a lot this series as well. But with so few bullpen arms really going right now, it's just the margins are going to be so thin. You literally are going to need Trey Savage to go out there and give you like 6 innings because you've got to, and you got that. You literally got that basically for Kevin Gausman, and it still wasn't enough, right? You need to basically you need to have the bullpen basically pitch as little as possible. And yeah, 2 runs, you're not going to win scoring 2 runs most of the time, but hell, you were going to win today. And that obviously wasn't the case, right? You need to score. And I mean, listen, Springer apparently, unless he's really hurt and apparently X-ray or MRI, X-rays, all that came back negative, he's likely, well, maybe not likely, but he's questionable, call it, to be in the lineup for Sunday. See what happens. But just, man, hard not to feel like that was really it. That was their shot. And it's hard to feel like they've got a shot at pushing this to seven.
Yeah, I think for me at least, like this team has just like done this over and over again. Maybe not, like the devastating loss part, but the part where they've, seemingly kind of been dead and out of it. So I think, to me at least, like to write them off, like I'm not going to write them off until the final out of the loss that ends their season. I think that's kind of where I'm at. Obviously, the odds are stacked against them once again. Um, but I guess, you kind of look at it, Trey Savage against probably Logan Gilbert for game six, and then you just got to get yourself to a game seven. So I think you
I
know,
don't like that matchup. I'll be honest. Logan Gilbert, I know they got to him a little bit in what was it, game two? Still frightens me.
so let's go into, obviously this game, like everything about it is the eighth inning. The eighth inning is this game. But to get to the eighth inning, Gosman was solid again. Thought he looked good. Thought he like kind of settled in, and the splitter like ended up really, really looking good over the course of the game. Louis Varland looked good. I mean, the offense, was kind of the part that they lost between these two games. And,
Stranding
I
runners
yeah,
and lack of
the
clutch hits. No, it's absolutely that. So I was actually about to ask you, do you shuffle the lineup here?
um I mean, is there really anybody to shuffle? Like, I don't think you're bringing in Loperfido. You're not bringing in Heineman. Like maybe Davis Schneider to get a little bit of a spark at second base or whatever. If you want to do it that way, I mean, they would do Schneider in left and Barger at third and Clement at second. But I mean, like to me, I could see that being a thing that you try. Obviously IKF, he hits he hits another double today, but he also bobbles one ball in the infield, and I could see, you want a little bit of a spark. I think, the one thing to me that's really interesting is like Bryce Miller looked really good in this game to begin with.
This guy's a
And
dude.
like obviously we know he's a good pitcher. Like he was very, very excellent in 2024, and that's obviously in there and has come out in a big way in this series. Um, I know a lot of people were upset when he got pulled when he did in the fifth, but I mean, I actually think that was like a really good piece of decision making by Dan Wilson because he had given up the bases loaded in the inning before, right? And he was so lucky to get out of that because he gets the strikeout of Varsho, and then he gets the Ernie Clement ground ball that like only is it only ends up as the way that it does because the ground is soft and it like comes back to Raleigh, right? So, I thought Miller looked good, but it felt like they were close on him, and then they just kind of weren't able to put the death punch in there. And I mean, kind of when you look at the extra base hits, right? Like Vlad had a double, IKF had a double, Lucas had a double, Springer had a double, Kirk had a double. Like they were hitting like enough extra base hits. They just weren't coming through with runners in scoring position. They went 2 for 11 with runners in scoring position. So, I mean, at the end of the day, those are big at bats that they had been coming through in, and obviously they didn't today. And I think One thing that the Mariners were able to do was intentionally walk Vlad twice, right? Like they took the bat out of his hand and didn't let him become a factor in the game. And by the end of it, you would have liked to probably have those two Vlad at bats back if you're the Blue Jays for him to be swinging. So, on it's on the lineup to give him a chance to swing, I would say.
You know what you're really feeling is you're really feeling the lack of Bo, and obviously Santander to a lesser degree, but the actual oomph in the lineup, man. You're really feeling that right now. And I mean, there's a reason to believe that they could, come back and win game six. I don't know if, listen, like one potential silver lining, if that with Springer is in theory, you hope that maybe by some miracle, maybe if he does happen to ultimately need to be shelved for the postseason because of a substantial injury, which it doesn't really sound like is the case, maybe Bo gets in for a six or a seven, but even at that, it's just to me, it's you are scrambling for a spark. I'm not sure who's going to give it to you. It's basically going to be it's either going to be a Savage coming out with not even like an 11 strikeout masterpiece, even just like a solid outing because that just wasn't the case in game two, or someone the way you got the contributions from Andres Jimenez the last couple games, you're going to need that from whoever it may be. And it's just right now, it feels real deep in the hole. The Jays feel real deep. And it's going to be a huge ask for them to take the next two. It's not out of the realm of possibilities, but it's just tough that they've put their backs against the wall in this situation. And really, because of one really absolute asinine decision.
Yep. Backs are against the wall. That's kind of the crux of it. I mean, I don't want to like enjoy like what happened too much, but I know that you mentioned that you were away from the screen for a little bit, so you didn't see the Kirk scoring from second on the single.
I saw some screenshots of it. I saw some clips of it. He was giving her, and
Giving her is a good way to put it. Yeah.
I didn't see the video though, but it's almost like at this point,
I know, I
it
know, I
becomes this
know.
moment, not to compare everything to, it's not always about the Leafs, but I think of, Nick Robertson scored his first NHL goal in the playoffs in the bubble against Columbus, and the Leafs blew a 3-0 lead in that game, and obviously went on to lose that series. And it's not a one-to-one comparison for a multitude of reasons, but it just feels like an opportunity wasted, a moment wasted for these Blue Jays.
Yeah, I think that was kind of the highlight of things before it kind of took it away was,
Before it went horribly wrong.
yeah. The Springer stuff obviously very concerning. There was a lot of boos as well, which the team commented on after, which,
Yeah,
I mean, it's
that's it.
been
That's just it's
it's been 6 years. Like maybe we can move on from the trash can
listen. Like
stuff.
I get why the Mariners are
They
particularly.
were they were so victimized in all those years that
Oh yes, definitely.
they would have
Oh
won the
yeah,
World
they would
Series.
have they would have won 78 games instead of 76 games all those years.
Yeah.
Like former AL West rival. Easy to hate that era of the Astros, but to boo him in that spot is just nasty stuff.
I mean, Ernie Clement called it classless, and I think
Yeah.
that's probably right. Obviously, fan base has been fantastic all series. Like the crowd
Yeah.
has been incredible
Totally
and
different
all
from
of
the
that.
Yankees series. Way
But
less vitriol and stuff on Twitter and whatnot.
yeah,
Way less.
but yeah, man, it's gonna be interesting on Sunday. Obviously, they get the day off to come home. I think they flew back tonight, so we'll see how it goes. You Savage against Gilbert. I mean, like, what's your confidence level in you Savage individually on a scale of 1 to 10?
Somehow, after all this, we've returned to the Savage-O-meter. Somehow, it has come full circle.
He's how often has he had to save the Blue Jay season this year? It's happened like 3 times, and it's gonna be his like seventh MLB start. It's crazy.
Well, listen, there's no experience like experience itself.
He is going to be
Uh,
a grizzled postseason veteran
exactly.
by
in
next
his
year.
in his rookie year. No, you know what? I mean, the confidence level is it's lower than it was before game two against the Yankees. It's higher than it was game two against the Mariners. I think there's a lot of reason to believe that he's going to be capable of adjusting to whatever mistakes he was making. I think he was getting squeezed at times against the Mariners in game two, and you hope that that won't be the case for game six. And outside of that, the Mariners aren't as obviously lefty heavy, but there'll be opportunities for him to go after guys and get guys. We'll see what happens. By and large, we saw Gosman have some success today, and enough similarities, even if they're totally different pitchers, that I think you like the potential of what Savage could bring for a game six. Game seven, if it gets there, it's all hands on deck. And I guess we'll see if the Blue Jays are able to push it to that point and able to face the big bad Dodgers, who, by the way, meanwhile, have just steamrolled the National League and look unbeatable right now. But, I guess we'll see. You take it one game at a time, I guess, is all you can really do. And go from there.
Just like big picture things, kind of with the Dodgers, this is giving me major 24 or 2012 postseason vibes. Do you recall which postseason I'm talking about?
I do recall
So
that would be the Red Sox versus no, excuse me, that's 2011. The 2012 World Series was the Giants. They beat the Tigers.
yes. So in that series, the Tigers, I mean, obviously one, really great mid early 2000s team. They've got, the Miggy, the Prince Fielder, they've got Verlander, they've
I
got
think they still have
Scherzer,
Scherzer, yeah.
they've got Valverde, like really, really great team.
They've
And
got Porcello, they've got this is before David Price, but they might have Robbie Ray before he's any good.
yeah, like really, really good team. And they sweep in the CS. And I remember this is like a huge rest versus rust conversation, but so they sweep in the CS. Their final game of their game four, whenever the New York Yankees is on October 18th. And the Giants and Cardinals go 7 games, and their game seven is October 22nd. And by the time that the World Series actually kicked off, which was um a couple
I
days
remember
after
this.
that,
I remember
and
this.
the Giants just rolled over the Tigers
I
because
remember
they
this.
came in, and I think it was, I'm like, obviously teams are going to do better with rest versus rust now, but I mean, it kind of gives me a little bit of that vibes where like the Dodgers were so overwhelming in that CS, and now they're going to sit there for an entire week because game one of the World Series is next Friday, and I like they'll come out in game one and it'll be like Blake Snell struck out 12 or whatever, but
You
just
can hope. One can hope.
just
One
just
can hope.
just just a thought. Just
Just to keep, just to, just to,
just step into the time machine with us for a
just
second.
put that in the back pocket.
Oh man. All right. Well, game six on Sunday. We will be back after to recap it all, and hopefully that's a happier episode than it has the chance to be. So, Jory, anything else from you? Game six, game five, off day. Any final thoughts?
Do or die. Watching through my eyes, watching through my fingers. We'll see what happens. Pray for me.
All right. Well, that is going to do it for us here tonight at the Bird's Eye View podcast. Make sure to hit the subscribe and like buttons if you're watching on YouTube. You can find us there at the Bird's Eye View pod. If you're listening along on the audio provider of your choice, make sure to drop a follow and review. You can follow us all on Twitter. I am at Worden_Zach. Jory is at J Negin-Shecter, and the pod is at BEV_pod. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll talk to you on Sunday.